Okay. Take two. Okay, I've already filmed this video today, and it went a little over an hour, and I filmed it on my phone because I don't have a camera, and my stupid phone said there's not enough storage. Yay! God. Anyways, so I'm gonna refilm this video and try to condense it down to at least, hopefully, half an hour. Maybe a little over, but no longer than that. So, bear with me, because I don't quite remember everything I said exactly, which, who does? You're dealing with a person with brain damage from birth, so come on a ride with me. This is going to be very interesting. If you don't already realize it, I usually make very lasting impressions on people. Well, wait. Maybe I should take that back. People remember me. Let's just say that. People remember me. Anyways, my name is Will. I'm 43 years old. I can't believe I'm 43 years old. Oh my God, where'd the time go? It just seemed like yesterday I was 16. Or just about to graduate high school when I was 18. Just about to graduate high school, and now I'm 43. Don't have kids. Don't have a job. Because I'm disabled, so... So anyways, my name is Will. And let's start this journey together, shall we? Yes, we shall. Okay. First things first. I am filming this video on October 10th, 2025, because I'm pretty sure I will forget about my 17th anniversary since I got top surgery, which was October 15th, 2008. So I'm pretty sure I would probably forget it, because I did the last 2 years. So anyways, here's my chest. And it's been 17 years. It'll be 17 years since my top surgery, 16 years since my revision. So, had a complication where they took the left drain out too early, and I had some fluid built up. So I could press on my chest and it looked like waves. It looked like waves under my skin. It was weird, but kind of cool. So my surgeon had to use a needle, pretty big ass needle, to stick in and suck out the fluid several times. He told me to look away. He told me to look away, and I was like, why? And I looked, and I almost passed out. I never knew a needle could be that big. But anyways, I digress. Let's get into the video. Now we got the trans stuff out of the way. Hold on. I'm back. My dog was scratching at my door. Anyways, now that we got the start out of the way, let's move on to what I was talking about most of all, which was about wrestling. I recently got back into it. And back in the day when it was the Attitude Era, late 90s, early to mid 2000s, when it was still WWF before it became WWE, when the storylines were good and the people telling the story were actually into it and happy, and you could tell they really wanted to do it. Today, not so much. Not so much. Which is really sad. So, yeah, it's sad. Okay. Back then, back in the day, there would be wrestlers you would want to see. you know, let's say two wrestlers are feuding, have they're talking trash to each other, talking smack, and let's for example, let's say Stone Cold Steve Austin and The Undertaker, just to name a couple. And of course they've had their beefs, you know, who hasn't really back then. Um, and you know, the storylines were very captivating. They got your attention right away. And for someone like me, was really good because I get bored really easily. I really do. If I'm not if nothing captivates me within like 5-10 minutes, I'm like, oh, I'm gonna watch something else. Now wrestling today, the storylines are okay, I guess. But the people telling the story, I'm sorry, but you can just tell they are not into it at all. Some of them try. I admit that some of them try, and you know, you can't blame a person for trying. At least they're giving it a shot. But but hold on a second. Sorry, I had to get a drink. My throat was dry. Anyways, nowadays, WWE. Okay, back in the day, arenas, stadiums sold out to the rafters. Now, not so much. Back in the day, you would see very creative posters and signs everywhere. Now, none. It's almost like creativity. People to be creative is like against the rules or something. That's what I've noticed. So now that Raw is on Netflix, I've watched a few episodes of Raw, current Raw, and the women's matches. Okay, back in the day, excuse me, back in the day, women weren't exactly wrestling much, if any. There was Chyna, who could totally kick guys' butts, which was awesome to see. I've always wanted to ask her a question if she was ever tired of DX's bullshit. Because listening to them after 5 minutes, I'm tired of their bullshit. I'm like, and it sounds like they peaked in middle school, and those guys were like in their 30s. So that's kind of sad. And, God damn it. Hold on. I'm back. Dogs again. I have a 2-year-old Shih Tzu who still has puppy brain, very much so, as you can see. And he's the sweetest little dog ever. I had a Shih Tzu before him, and we lost him last year. His name was Charlie, and he lived to be 16. We ended up having to have his eyes removed because he had glaucoma in both eyes, and the vet said if we didn't have them removed, then his eyes would literally explode. So Mom was like, I don't know if we should have the surgery. And I said, Mom, I don't want to wake up one morning and see his empty eye sockets and eye goo going everywhere. No, let's do the surgery. We did the surgery. They stitched his eyelids shut. He could still get around by a sense of smell. And Mom wanted to move furniture right after, and I said, Mom, we can't move furniture, because that'd just be unfair. That'd be unfair to him. Plus, at that point in time, he got doggy dementia, and he was incontinent, meaning he couldn't hold his bladder anymore. So he had to wear diapers. And he was a sweet dog. He was also my service dog. He could sense seizures. He even sensed serotonin syndrome. Serotonin syndrome, let me try to explain it. It's basically, I don't know the total medical of what happens, but what happened to me, I'll go by that. It was an hour and a half before it happened. Me and Mom are out in the dining room just talking. He comes up and starts barking like hell at me. And so we go through a list. Are you hungry? Are you thirsty? Do you need to go outside? Is our other dog, Daisy, at the time we had a dog named Daisy, blocking a doorway and won't let you go past? Something. No idea. Absolutely no clue. And then an hour and a half later, I was laying down. I had like a bunk bed type thing in my room at the time. And I was laying down on the bottom mattress. And he kept coming in, sniffing my eyes. He was sniffing my eyes. I guess they were giving off a smell that he could pick up. I really don't know. And pretty soon he was coming back in, back and forth every like 30 to 45 seconds until finally I just flop over and I am stiff from the neck down. And right when I flop over, he gets right next to my thigh and stayed there. And long story short, I was paralyzed from the neck down for 13 and a half hours. And we did go to the emergency room by ambulance. And dogs. Anyways, went by ambulance and I was paralyzed for 13 and a half hours from the neck down. And they finally got me a room. And right after I got into the room, the meds they were giving me all night started to work. And I loosened up. And oh my God, pretty much all your muscles are stiff for 13 and a half hours, talk about pain. I felt like one giant bruise for at least 3 days after. I felt like one giant bruise. And I wasn't bruised. But anyways, he was that type of service dog. Now, my dog now, who's also a Shih Tzu, who I got at the mall pet store. So I'm not going to go into details of how expensive, but if I bought him at the mall pet store, expensive, but he's worth every penny. And it took me 2 months to come up with a damn name. So my mom's like, well, since he doesn't have a name yet, we got to name him something, call him something. So she started calling him Puppy, and he started to answer the Puppy. Until finally I just said, okay, his name's Button. Buttons, whatever. Because he's cute as a button, and he has a button nose, and okay. And he is now my service dog. He is also, okay, I'm on 2 Special Olympics bowling teams. One that bowls on Wednesday afternoons, which it's a different type of bowling league where we don't go to regionals or state competitions, because this Special Olympics bowling league is sponsored by the United States Bowling Committee or Coalition, something like that. USBC. And an ex-friend of mine introduced me to this league and all these great people, and all these fantastic people, and we just started our season, and I'm on a team this time because I was a floater, just a sub on teams. So now I'm on a team, and it's great. Now my other bowling is on Thursday nights, and that is the type of Special Olympics bowling where it's where we go to regionals and state competitions. Where regionals, you get ribbons, first, second, third, fourth, then and then state is where you get medals, gold, silver, bronze. It's Special Olympics. It's an Olympics. But anyways, my dog, is the mascot for the Wednesday Special Olympics bowling. So he has a harness, a blue harness, and I customized some patches for the harness that say Heroes Bowling League mascot on them, and they're embroidered. You can do pretty much anything on Amazon. Go fig. Anyways, but he's my service dog. He's great. He can sense when I'm having absence seizures, where you just kind of check out for a few seconds and then check back in to reality. And you know how sometimes it's an absence seizure is like if you space, if you just suddenly space out for a couple seconds, like you're trying to think of something, but then you check right back in a few seconds later, and it's like, okay, you go on with your day. And he can sense when I'm having a nightmare. He comes up and bops me on the nose with his big foot, with one of his big feet, and just bops me on the nose and wakes me up. Every time I have a nightmare. It is weird. Anyways, back to what I was saying. Got off on a little tangent there. But now, okay. Women's wrestling, the women's matches. Okay, back in the day, not very many. Understandable. Now, many. Lots. But, I'm sorry, but the moves and the story is like, okay, you're telling a story, you have to tell a story, continue telling the story in the match. Now, back in the day when somebody would do it would be a quick movement. It doesn't really show a quick movement on my screen, but then it was like, oh my god, that person just got elbowed in the face. That's awesome. And because they totally deserved it, But I recently saw a women's match on Raw, and the lady, I swear, went like this. That speed. And I said, it was after 2 minutes, 2 to 5 minutes. I said, oh, somebody just get pinned and let's move on. Now I'm not talking bad about women's wrestling. It's great that they have that division. It's awesome. But since you have that option now, really take advantage and really show that you are really into it. And not just like, whatever. Because then it's like, that's really boring. And I get bored very easily. I'm also a very lazy person, but if I have to do something to get a job done, I get the job done. Not a total lazy slob like people in government these days. Anyways, now, back then, ticket prices. From what I've heard and read and watched on YouTube, the average price for a front row ticket, I mean, your knees are touching the barricade, okay? Right by the ring, you see everything. Roughly $400. Now, still, granted, that's a lot of money. To this day, it's still a lot of money. But, and back in '98, I went to see SummerSlam, and where we were sitting in the second level, but where we were sitting was, you could see straight, and you could see the wrestlers making their entrances, which was really cool. And so don't mind him. I don't want him in my room because he's going to bring in one of our other dogs, and they're going to start fighting, and then it's going to just interrupt me. So, anyways, I love my dogs. Don't get me wrong. I love my dogs. They're nuts. Anyways, ticket price back then for a front row ticket, roughly $400, let's just say. As an example, let's just say. Now, $10,000 for a front row seat. That's what I've heard and watched on YouTube. 10 grand for a front row seat ticket. And if I'm going to pay $10,000 or whatever exorbitant amount of money, like if it's over $1,000, dude, I want a good show. I want my money's worth. I want my money's worth. Now, if I paid 10 grand, if I paid $10,000 for a front row ticket, which would be crazy, but people do it, and you're totally welcome to do it if you can afford it. I would want a good show, to see a good show, see stories being played out and exciting, and also for that price of a ticket, some meet and greets, maybe some merch to get signed, something, make it a little more, more bang for your buck, basically. There was a lady who, I watched a video on YouTube. She ended up spent her first wrestling weekend, because they used to do pay-per-views on Sundays. Now they're not called pay-per-views anymore. Paid live event? No. Whatever. I'm not gonna rack my brain for it. To figure out the name. Anyways. Hold on. This is my dad. He's like, why can't the dogs come in? Because I don't want them fighting. Because then they're loud. Okay, back to what I was saying. Okay, there was this lady. There's a video on YouTube. I don't remember the title name or anything like that. But anyways. Okay, now pay-per-views, back in the day, on Sunday nights. Now, they do 2 nights, Saturday and Sunday. Okay, this lady, it was her first wrestling show experience. She paid $30,000 for this weekend, okay? Now, I don't know if that included that she paid for airfare or, hotel and so. I don't know. But I really hope that most of that money was for that too. But anyways, she spent $30,000, and she was basically, for 30 grand. For 30 grand, I would want front row seats, big front row seats, so I could see everything, maybe some meet and greets, or even better, a whole suite. at an arena, a whole suite that includes food, like appetizers, food, drinks, alcoholic, non-alcoholic, souvenirs, meet and greets, whatever. Backstage passes, baby. Even backstage passes. More bang for your buck. Anyways, they didn't. Okay, she figured she would get, floor seats on the floor. Of course, why not? No. She was on the lower level, the first level, but she was all the way back in the very top row. Couldn't see crap. And they were having microphone issues both days and couldn't hear what anyone was saying. Not one word. And her and her friends or family ended up running into Randy Orton. And he was walking with some lady, probably his wife. Who knows? But he was walking with a lady. And so they stopped him and they just said hi and stuff. And he asked, somehow he's like, how are you enjoying your weekend? And she goes, well, I spent $30,000 and this is what I got. And he was pissed. Because he's like, for $30,000, you should get a hell of a lot more than just that. Just basically first level nosebleed seats, and you can't hear a damn word through the microphones. Exactly. You're probably thinking, oh my God, exactly. My point. So back then, okay, when I went to SummerSlam, tickets were, I was on the second level, but tickets were between $50 to $100 a ticket, I think. Which was, it was a good chunk of money, back then for our family, but it was totally worth it because we had a good time. It was me and my brother. We had a great time. It was awesome. And we had a blast. We had a total blast, okay? Now, okay. Also a difference. I think the reason why tickets are so high is because WWE partnered with TKO, which I think is a MMA, UFC type of company. I could be wrong, but, anyways, and they raised the ticket prices so high that now, back then, arenas, stadiums, sold out, no issue. Now, it's not very sold out anymore. It would probably sell out if it was a for sure thing that certain wrestlers were going to appear or even wrestle again, like Stone Cold Steve Austin or The Undertaker or Mankind or Mick Foley, Mankind, Cactus Jack, Dude Love. Yeah. I think that was all of his personas. Anyways, so yeah, okay, if a legend wrestler was going to show up to an event or something, and I could afford a ticket, even if it was on the second level, just to see him, even if it's a blurry version from way up high, I think it would be worth it if I could afford it. Nowadays, back then, for what I'm getting now from Social Security and Disability, no problem. Ticket back then, no problem. Now, hell no. I can't even afford to live on my own on what I'm getting. A 1-bedroom apartment, on average, $1,500. And I get less than $1,000. And my parents can't pay the rest of that rent because they're in the same boat. And it's another long story, but I'm not going to get into it. But, you know, and also now, you know how it's real, you know, the audiences are like really, it seems like they're in a much smaller, like, place. It's because they have everybody who bought tickets all close up, so it looks like they're packed. But they're not. Usually they're not. So anyways, to get off that topic, I just want to talk about one other wrestler who's retiring this year, and that he's a good role model, and that's John Cena. He has done more wishes for the Make-A-Wish Foundation than any other celebrity. Back in 2015, he had done over 500 wishes. That was 10 years ago. Who knows how many he's done since then? Probably 1,000 or more. But he's a good role model. Doesn't do drugs. Doesn't do steroids. Doesn't do drugs. Doesn't drink. Well, maybe occasionally, but he's not like a total, like, full out alcoholic. Okay, but there was this girl who was 21 years old. She had Down syndrome, and she was dying from cancer. She was terminal. He went and wrestled, then got into a car, of course, and drove 4 hours to her house just to hang out with her. Sign what merch he had, and he literally gave her the shirt off his back. Literally. And I've seen him, I've seen clips of him, like, after he's done wrestling in the ring, he would see a wrestling fan with a John Cena shirt on, and he would jump over the barricade. And there was one where it was a kid who was in a wheelchair, and he jumped the barricade, went over it, and gave him his sweatband wristbands. Just like that. And that is somebody to look up to. Now the whole, doesn't do drugs, doesn't do steroids and stuff. Now, okay. There are some wrestlers to this day. Back then, there were some that you could definitely tell were using steroids. Because no one gets naturally that big and muscular without a little enhancement. Okay? And some of them had problems with painkillers and stuff like that. Granted, some of them, wrestlers today, they're not perfect. Stuff happens. But there's one wrestler who was popular back in the day and is kind of now, who is, well, how do I he's nuts. I can't put it nicer than that. He's nuts. Brock Lesnar. I'm sorry, but that guy has such a short fuse. He has no fuse. That's how short his fuse is. Okay, like, for example, let's say I worked for WWE back in the day, and I was walking down the hall backstage, let's just say, for an example, and I go up to him and I go, "Hey, how you doing?" Shake his hand. I'm like, "Hey, how you doing? How's the family doing these days?" And then just asks him just a few questions, and then all of a sudden he just snaps. Now, for a Minnesotan, I don't think he really believes in Minnesota nice. So, but, yeah, that's all I'm going to say about him. Anyways, well, I've been talking for a little over 35 minutes, and I figured I should basically stop flapping my gums, because I'm pretty sure at this point, if you made it this far in the video, you're like, oh my god, yes, please shut up. And I didn't have a Mike's Hard Cranberry Lemonade. Usually those make me talk like crazy. And it's only 5% alcohol. I don't drink. 5% alcohol makes me a chatterbox. But I'm a chatterbox now. Anyways, yeah. So I will talk to you guys later. Peace out.